The gas giant filled the main view screen, a swirling marble of bruised purple and ammonia white. Its constant, silent storms were the only scenery Captain Jean had known for 18 years. He sipped lukewarm coffee, the taste as familiar and dull as the duty shift. The ship around him, the UHSV Munsu, was quiet. The soft hum of the life support and the occasional ping from a sensor were the only sounds. He was a man in his early 50s, but the lines on his face spoke of a heavier age. His eyes, dark and patient, watched the sensor data scroll on a side screen. Nothing ever changed. That was the point. The bridge was small, built for a crew of 3 on watch. The design was nothing like the ships the Galactic Concorde knew humanity used. There were no bright lights or shiny surfaces. Every console, every panel was matte black and angled in a way that seemed to swallow the light. It felt less like a bridge and more like a cave. The door slid open with a soft sigh. Officer Mira entered. She was young, maybe late 20s, with a sharp focus to her gaze. She carried a data tablet like it was a part of her hand. "Captain," she said, her voice clear in the quiet. "Systems check is complete. Reactor is at nominal. Drive is dormant but ready. Hull integrity is at 100%. Jean nodded. "Thank you, Mira." She took her station at the tactical console, her fingers dancing over the surface, rechecking what she had just checked. Mira was their best. She had been just a child when the Munsu left the solar system. Her whole adult life had been this ship, this watch. 18 years today, Jean said, more to himself than to her. Mira looked up. "Since departure, sir?" "Since we entered the dark," Jean replied. He called up the mission log on his screen. The date flashed. Protocol Veil. Day 6571. The words of the protocol were etched in his memory. Maintain absolute secrecy. No contact with Earth or any human colony. No emission signature. Your purpose is to prepare and wait. You are the silent option. "What are we preparing for, sir?" Mira asked. It was a question she asked sometimes, a ritual. The answer was never satisfying. "What they told us to prepare for," Jean said, his standard reply. "The unknown." But his mind drifted back. He was not always on this ship. Once, he was Lieutenant Jean, a promising officer in the Earth Defense Fleet. He remembered the room. It was plain gray. A senior officer, a woman with severe hair and kind eyes, had sat across from him. "Lieutenant," she had said, "we have a mission. It has no glory. It might have no end. You will be a ghost. You will guard a door no one knows exists. Do you understand?" He had said yes. He was young and idealistic. The importance felt heavy and good. He didn't know then what the weight of years would do to that feeling. The third member of their bridge crew arrived. Chief Engineer Tay. He was a solid man, with thick hands that were always slightly stained with grease, even though the ship's machines didn't use grease. He had a way of listening to the Munsu, of knowing its moods from the vibrations in the deck. "Captain," Tay grunted, slipping into his seat at the engineering station. "The shear core is dreaming nicely. No nightmares today." The shear core was the heart of the Munsu. It was not a normal faster-than-light drive. It was something else, something human physicists had dreamed up in secret. It bent space in a way the Galactic Empires thought was just theory. Tay treated it like a sleeping child. "Good," Jean said. "A quiet day is a good day." Their routine began. Mira monitored the long-range sensors. Tay ran diagnostics on systems that had never been fully activated. Jean reviewed logs that never contained anything new. This was their life. A small, closed loop. They ate together in the small mess hall. They exercised in the low gym. They maintained their skills in the simulators, fighting old battles against imaginary foes. They were a family of 3, tucked inside a metal shell, hidden inside the magnetic chaos of a giant planet. Jean often walked the empty corridors at night cycle. The ship could hold 50. Felt vast and hollow with just them. He passed closed dormitory doors, empty recreation rooms. He remembered the faces of the others who had trained for this mission. Some had backed out. Some had been assigned elsewhere. In the end, it was just his small crew. the ones who could bear the silence. He stopped at a viewport, not the main one. This one showed the curve of the gas giant's atmosphere, lit by its distant star. It was beautiful in a lonely, terrifying way. This was their whole world. Their only purpose was to be here unseen. Sometimes, Jean wondered if Earth remembered them. If the admirals who gave the order ever thought about the Munsu drifting in the dark. Or had they, too, become a line in a forgotten file? A ghost ship with a ghost crew. He pushed the thought away. It was a dangerous thought. Their purpose was to wait. To be the option that was never used. The final, silent argument in a debate that hopefully would never happen. He returned to his small cabin. On his desk was a single picture. It was a digital frame showing a park on Earth, with green trees and a blue sky. It was a generic image provided by the mission. No personal photos were allowed. Nothing that could create a signal of longing. He was supposed to look at the park and remember what he was protecting. He looked at it now. He didn't see a park. He saw a concept, an idea called home, that was fading year by year, replaced by the steady hum of the ship and the swirling purple of the gas giant. He turned off the light and lay in his bunk. The ship sighed around him. Tomorrow would be day 6572. The same as today. The same as always. Their watch continued, silent and endless. Light years away from the hidden Munsu, the star system GSC 772 was a quiet place. It was a place of dust and old rocks. The Galactic Concord listed it as uninhabited and of low resource value. It was the kind of place only scientists and surveyors ever visited. The Concord survey vessel Curiosity was a small, egg-shaped ship. Its crew of 4 was bored. They had been mapping nebula gases for 3 months. Their work was slow and detail-oriented. It was not a job for people who wanted excitement. Pilotly, a human woman with tired eyes guided the ship through a faint cloud of cosmic dust. Readings are normal. Another day, another cloud, she said to her captain over the comms. Just finish the sector scan, the captain's voice replied. Then we can go home. Lee nodded. She adjusted their course slightly. That's when her long-range scanner pinged. A soft, curious sound. A mass of metal, not rock, was floating in the emptiness ahead. Captain, I have something, she said, her boredom fading. Metallic signature. It's not on any of our charts. Probably an old probe, the captain said. Let's take a look. Break the routine. The Curiosity moved closer. As they did, the shape on the scanner became clearer. It was not one object. It was many. A field of broken, twisted metal, scattered like garbage in space. Some pieces were huge, the size of buildings. Others were small fragments that glittered in the starlight. This is not a probe, Lee whispered. This is a battlefield. The wreckage was ancient. It was cold and silent. There were no energy signatures, no signs of life. The shapes of the ships were strange. They did not match Concord design. They did not match Cthari design either. This was something older, a forgotten war. The captain ordered a full scan. Collect alloy samples. This could be a major find. A pre-Concord civilization. A small drone launched from their ship. It flew towards a large, curved piece of hull. Its tools began to scrape a sample of the metal. The data streamed back to the Curiosity. The alloy composition was odd. Very strong. Very light. The science officer got very excited. But the Curiosity was not alone. Hidden behind a large, dark asteroid, another ship watched. This ship was long and sharp, like a needle. Its hull was a dull red color. This was the Cthari scout ship, Silent Blade. Its commander was Overseer Kale. Kale stood on his command platform. His species was reptilian with hard, scaly skin. His yellow eyes watched the Concord ship on his screen. He had been following the Curiosity for days. He was not interested in science. He was interested in advantage. His second-in-command, a younger Cthari named Vor, hissed. They have found the graveyard. They are taking samples. Kale watched the drone work. The ancient alloy was a prize. The Cthari hegemony had known about this wreckage for years. They had been studying it in secret. They did not want the Concorde to have it. That data is ours, Kale said, his voice a dry rustle. We cannot let them leave with it. It is a Concorde vessel. An attack could start an incident, Vor cautioned. Kale showed his sharp teeth. It was not a smile. This is a remote place. No witnesses. Their distress signal will not reach anyone. It will be a mystery. Prepare the plasma cannons. On the Curiosity, the mood had changed from boredom to thrilling discovery. Lee was helping to analyze the alloy data. This is incredible, she said. The molecular structure is. An alarm screamed through the ship. A sharp, piercing sound. Captain! Massive energy spike. Right on top of us. Lee yelled, her hands flying over the controls. The Curiosity shook violently. A bolt of red plasma slammed into its side. Lights flickered. The air filled with the smell of burned circuits. We are under attack. Kthari signature, the captain shouted. Evasive pattern. Now! Lee tried to turn the ship. It was slow and clumsy. It was a science vessel, not a warship. Another plasma bolt hit them. This one tore through their engine housing. Power levels dropped fast. Mayday! Mayday! The captain yelled into the comms, sending a distress signal out into the void. This is Concorde Survey Vessel Curiosity. We are under attack in GSC 772. We are. A third blast hit the comms array. The signal cut off, but not before a burst of data was sent out. It was a fragmented, desperate packet. It contained their location, their attacker's identity, and all the sensor data they had just collected, including the strange alloy readings and, buried within, a fragment of old Kthari weapon signatures from another scan. Signatures that matched a banned Scorched World bomb test. On the silent blade, Kale watched the Concorde ship drift, dead in space. Smoke poured from its wounds. Finish them, Kale ordered. Then collect their drone and their data core. Make it look like a reactor accident if anyone finds them. A pity. Vor aimed the final cannon. Firing. But deep within the damaged Curiosity, the automated systems did one last thing. The fragmented distress signal, the burst of data, was not aimed at a Concorde base. That was too far. In its panic, the computer sent it out in all directions. A blind scream for help. The signal raced out at the speed of light, past asteroids and dust clouds. It moved towards the one place in the system where someone was actually listening. It moved towards the magnetic shadow of the gas giant. It moved towards the hidden ship called Munsu. The alarm on the Munsu was not a loud sound. It was a soft, persistent chime and a pulse of red light on the tactical console. It was designed to alert, not to panic. Mira was the one who saw it first. Her screen, which usually showed empty space and sensor static, suddenly filled with sharp, angry lines of data. Her body went very still. Captain, she said, her voice tight, I have an active signal. Multiple sources. Bearing 72 Mark 1. Jean was in his cabin, looking at the picture of the park. The chime brought him to the bridge in seconds. Tay was right behind him, his engineer's mind already worrying about the ship's hidden power. Report, Jean said, slipping into his command chair. Myra's fingers moved quickly. 2 vessels. One is a Galactic Concorde science profile badly damaged. Energy bleed and life signs fading. The other is a Kthari light scout. Weapon signatures are active and hot. The Kthari ship is moving to finish the kill. A screen lit up, showing the translated distress call. The broken voice of the Concorde captain. The final burst of data. Jin's eyes scanned the information. Coordinates. Attack codes. And then the supplemental files. Mira highlighted one. This was in their sensor dump, sir. They weren't just scanning debris. They recorded a residual energy signature from a different recent event. It's a weapons test. Kthari Planetary Scorching Protocol. Banned by every galactic treaty. She pulled up the data. It showed a theoretical simulation of the weapon's effect on an Earth-like world. Cities turned to glass. Atmospheres burned away. It was a weapon of absolute death. Jean stared at the simulation. The quiet park in his mind's eye was replaced by fire. Protocol veil echoed in his head. Maintain secrecy. No contact. Prepare and wait. Are they civilian? Tay asked, looking at the dying Concorde ship's profile. Scientists, Mira confirmed. No weapons. Just sensors. Another soft chime. On screen, they saw the Kthari ship, the Silent Blade, line up its final shot. The Concorde vessel, the Curiosity, drifted helplessly. We are the only ship in range, Mira said. It was not a suggestion. It was a fact. The bridge was silent except for the hum of the ship. Jean felt the weight of 18 years press down on him. His whole purpose had been to be a ghost, a theory, a secret. To break that silence was to change everything. It was to make the Munsu real. He looked at Mira. She met his gaze. Her eyes were hard. She had joined this mission to protect something, not just to hide. He looked at Tay. The engineer's face was grim. He gave a small, slow nod. He was ready. Protocol Veil said to wait. But the simulation of a scorched world flashed behind Jin's eyes. The Concorde ship was just a small thing. But the act of destroying it here in the dark after testing a horror like that weapon. It was a line. A line they were watching someone cross. The signal they intercepted, Jean said quietly. The weapon test. That changes the calculus. That's not just an attack. That's a statement of future intent. A statement against all life like ours. He straightened up in his chair. The weary captain was gone. In his place was the man who had accepted a mission with no end. Protocol Veil is about protecting human interests, Jean said, his voice firm now. A galaxy where that weapon is used freely is not in our interest. It is the deepest threat to our interest. We cannot witness this and do nothing. He took a deep breath. The next words would break 18 years of silence. Power up the shear core. Bring all systems to active status. But keep us in the shadow. Move us to intercept. A new kind of energy filled the Munsu. A deep, subaudible vibration thrummed through the deck. Lights on consoles that had never been lit suddenly glowed a soft blue. The ship was waking up from its long, artificial sleep. Tay worked his controls, a fierce concentration on his face. Shearcore is answering. Singing. Gravitic systems online. Dispersion field is ready. It's all green, Captain. She's been waiting for this. The view on the main screen shifted. The gas giant fell away behind them. The Munsu slid out of its magnetic hideout like a shadow separating from the night. It moved with a silent, smooth speed that no other ship in the galaxy could match. On the screen, the scene of the dying Curiosity and the predatory Silent Blade grew larger. Time to intercept? Jean asked. 45 seconds, Mira said. Her hands were poised over the tactical controls. Their sensors won't see us until we want them to. Our profile is still a void to them. Jean watched the Kthari ship. He saw the glow of its plasma cannons building for the final shot. Open a channel, Jean ordered. All frequencies. Universal translation. Mira nodded. Channel open. Jean leaned forward slightly. He spoke 3 words, clear and calm. They were not a shout. They were an order thrown across the void. Cease hostilities. Withdraw. On the bridge of the Silent Blade, Overseer Kale heard the words appear in his mind through his translator implant. They came from nowhere. His sensors still showed only the Concorde ship and empty space. He hissed in surprise and anger. Who said that? Find them. On the Munsu, Jean watched the Kthari ship ignore the command. Its weapon glow continued to build. They are targeting the life support section of the Concorde ship, Mira said, her voice cold. A kill shot. Jin's face was like stone. Decloak. Mira pressed a sequence. One moment, there was empty space between the Silent Blade and its prey. The next moment, a ship was there. It did not shimmer into view. It simply was. A vast, angular shape of pure black. It absorbed the distant starlight, making it look like a hole cut in the universe. No running lights. No glowing engines. Just silent, dark mass. On the Silent Blade, Vor shrieked a warning. Overseer. A vessel. It just appeared. Kale spun to his screen. His yellow eyes widened. The ship was like nothing in any database. It was huge, and it was blocking his shot. Where did it come from? He roared. What is it? The calm voice echoed in his mind again. From the dark ship. It was the same voice. You are ordered to stand down. Power down your weapons and withdraw. Kale felt a rush of fury. It was one ship. A strange one, but still just one ship. He was Kthari. He would not be ordered around by a ghost. Fire a warning shot, Kale snarled. Across their bow. Make them move. The silent blade fired. A bolt of red plasma, bright and hot, lanced through the dark toward the strange vessel. The plasma bolt crossed the space between the ships. It was a bright line of destruction. On the bridge of the Munsu, the crew watched it come. They did not flinch. Impact in 3 seconds, Mira said, her voice calm. Dispersion field is active. Jean only nodded. He kept his eyes on the main screen. This was the first real test. Not a simulation. Not a drill. Actual hostile fire. The bolt struck the forward section of the Munsu. There was no loud explosion. No shake. The bolt did not splash against a visible shield. Instead, the dark, fractal hull where it hit shimmered for a fraction of a second, like the surface of a still pond disturbed by a single drop. The red energy of the plasma seemed to stretch, thin out, and then simply fade into the black material. It was absorbed. The only evidence was a brief, faint glow that cooled to nothing. On the silent blade, the crew stared in silence. Their sensors went wild, trying to understand what had just happened. The energy signature of their plasma bolt had not reflected. It had not dissipated. It had vanished. Overseer Kale felt a cold spike in his stomach. This was wrong. What was that? He hissed. A new shield type? Scan them again. Find a weakness. On the Munsu, Jean let out a slow breath. The field had worked. Tay smiled a tight smile, patting his console. Like a sponge soaking up water. No stress on the system. Good, Jean said. His voice was still quiet. Now we show them why they should have listened. Target the large asteroid fragment at bearing 045. The 13 kilometers from the Kthari ship. Lock the gravity lance. Target locked, Mira confirmed. Her finger hovered over the control. Fire. The Munsu did not glow. It did not roar. From a single point on its hull, space itself seemed to bend. A visible distortion, like looking through old glass, shot out towards the chosen asteroid. It was a silent, twisting line. The asteroid was the size of a small building. When the distortion touched it, the rock did not explode. It imploded. It crunched inward from all points at once. In less than a second, it was compressed into a perfect, dense sphere no larger than a human fist. The sphere hung in space for a moment, then drifted, dark and heavy. The display of power was absolute and completely silent. It was not about brute force. It was about control. Terrible, precise control. On the silent blade, the silence was broken by Vor's choked gasp. Overseer, the asteroid, it's gone. They compressed it. The gravity readings are off the scale. Kale understood. The warning shot had been ignored. The demonstration was a message. Our weapons are not like yours. Your ship could be that asteroid. Fear, cold and solid, replaced his anger. Jean opened the channel again. His voice was the same, calm, unemotional. This is your final warning. Power down your weapons. Withdraw from this system. Do not attempt to jam signals or engage your drive. We are monitoring. Kale's mind raced. His pride screamed at him to fight. But his instinct for survival was louder. That weapon. If it could do that to an asteroid, his ship's shields would be like paper. He looked at the dark vessel on his screen. It just waited. It did not move. It did not threaten. It simply was. He made a decision. His claws tapped on his console, deactivating the plasma cannons. Power down weapons, he said, the words tasting like ash. Overseer. Vor began to protest. Do it, Kale roared. He then opened his own channel, directing it to the dark ship. This is Overseer Kale of the Kthari hegemony. We are standing down. Do not fire. On the Munsu, Mira watched the Silent Blade's weapon signatures go dark. Weapons are powered down. Their drive is still hot, but they are not moving. Jean nodded. Now we secure the area. Mira, activate the full-spectrum jammer. Isolate both ships. Nothing gets in or out except on our terms. Tay, prepare a narrowband link to the Concorde vessel's life pod systems. Tay worked quickly. Jammer is active. They are cut off. I have a link to the Curiosity. Their main power is dead. Life support is failing. The crew is gathering in the escape pods. Send them an automated message, Jean ordered. Tell them to launch their pods and move to a safe distance. Tell them they will not be harmed. No other communication. They watched as small, bright objects ejected from the wounded Concorde ship. For life pods, like metal seeds, flew away from the wreckage. They drifted, confused, but unharmed. Now, Jean said, focusing on the Kthari ship. We escort our guest out of the neighborhood. Mira, plot a course that pushes them to the system's edge. Use gravitational static pulses to herd them. Keep their systems confused. Make it impossible for them to think straight. Aye, Captain. The Munsu began to move. It did not turn like a normal ship. It seemed to pivot on its center, its nose now pointing at the Silent Blade. It advanced slowly, deliberately. On the Kthari ship, alarms sounded again, but these were different. Sensor screens filled with static. Gravity sensors spun wildly, telling them they were suddenly in a field 10 times normal, then zero gravity, then sideways gravity. The ship's internal artificial gravity system flickered, making the crew stumble. Their communications produced only a loud, painful shriek in their ears. They were blind, deaf, and disoriented. Drive systems are unstable. I cannot hold course. Fua cried out. Do not try to fight it, Kale ordered, gripping his chair. Let it push us. Just record everything. Every sensor ghost, every energy flicker. Record it all. The Munsu moved behind the Silent Blade, a vast, dark shadow. With gentle, irresistible pulses of distorted gravity, it nudged the Kthari ship. It was like a sheepdog herding a confused animal. The Silent Blade was forced onto a new course, away from the wreckage, away from the life pods, towards the empty outer darkness of the star system. Jean watched the process. There was no glory in it. It was a clinical, almost gentle display of overwhelming superiority. The Kthari were not destroyed. They were simply removed. After an hour, the Silent Blade was a distant speck, pushed beyond the system's main debris field. The Munsu halted. Cut the jamming. Restore their basic systems, Jean said. The painful static on the Kthari ship vanished. Their sensors cleared. They could see again. They could hear again. The dark ship was still there, hanging in space behind them. A final message came through for Kale alone. It was Jin's voice. You will return to the hegemony. You will tell them what happened here. You will tell them about the weapon test data we saw. You will tell them humanity knows. The silent time is over. Then the dark ship turned away. Its strange hull shimmered once, and it vanished. It did not jump to faster than light speed. It simply ceased to be there. Kale stared at the empty space where it had been. His ship was unharmed. His crew was alive. But he had never felt more defeated in his life. He had seen the future of warfare, and it did not belong to the Kthari. He had made a deadly error in attacking the Concorde ship. He had woken something up. Set a course for home, he whispered, his voice hollow. Maximum speed. He needed to tell his superiors. They needed to know about the ghosts. News in the galaxy did not travel instantly. It moved at the speed of ships and signals. But important news had a way of finding fast paths. The story moved in broken pieces, carried by a terrified Kthari scout and 4 confused Concorde scientists in life pods. First, the Kthari hegemony heard. Overseer Kale's report was a mess of fear and broken pride. It spoke of a phantom ship, a vessel that ate plasma fire and crushed asteroids with gravity. A human voice from the dark. His superiors in the hegemony's military council first thought he had gone mad from deep space isolation. Then they reviewed the sensor logs from the Silent Blade. The logs were the problem. They showed nothing, then a ship, then impossible readings. The gravity wave signatures made their senior physicists pale. This was not madness. This was a technology leap they did not understand. And the humans had it. Then the Galactic Concorde heard. A patrol ship found the 4 life pods, drifting and telling a wild story. They spoke of being attacked, of certain death. Then a savior, a black ship that appeared from nowhere. A ship that spoke with a human voice, humbled the Kthari, and saved their lives. Their sensor data confirmed the Kthari attack. And buried in their files was the fragment about the banned planet killer test. The 2 greatest empires in the galaxy looked at the same event from different sides. They came to the same shocking conclusion. Humanity, the quiet, unified species that made good terraforming equipment and tolerable medical scanners, had been hiding something monstrous. Or magnificent. Panic was a quiet thing in the halls of power. It was closed doors and urgent meetings. On the gleaming space station that served as the Concorde's diplomatic hub, Ambassador Hannah waited. She was a human woman in her 60s. She dressed in simple, gray clothes. She liked to drink tea and listen more than she spoke. The other ambassadors often saw her as pleasant, but unimportant. Humanity was a middle-tier power. A useful one, but not a decisive one. That changed when the summons came. It was not a request. It was a command to appear before the Emergency Security Council. When she entered the circular chamber, all eyes were on her. The avian chancellor, the silicon-based Lithian minister, the amphibious Galruck delegate. Their faces, so different, showed the same expression. Cold scrutiny. The avian chancellor spoke first. Its voice a sharp chirp translated to smooth tones. Ambassador Hannah, your people have committed a grave act of deception. Hannah sipped her tea from a small cup she had brought with her. Deception? Chancellor? How so? The Lithian minister projected a hologram into the center of the room. It showed the distorted sensor image of the Munsu. This vessel, of human origin. Its technological capabilities are in direct violation of the Galactic Arms Transparency Accords, which your species signed. Hannah looked at the blurry image. She allowed a small, polite smile. The Accords require the declaration of strategic-level weapon systems. The UHSV Munsu is not a weapon system. A murmur went around the room. The Galruck delegate bubbled with anger. It destroyed an asteroid with a gravity weapon. It disabled a Kthari warship without firing a single shot. How is that not a weapon? It is a defensive exploration vessel, Hannah said, her voice still calm. Its primary mission is long-range survey and the protection of human scientific interests. What you call a weapon is a geological sampling tool. It was used to demonstrate the dangers of aggressive action in a volatile stellar environment. The silence that followed was stunned. A geological sampling tool. They had all seen the data. The compression of that asteroid was an act of terrifying power. To call it a tool was an insult. Do not play word games, Ambassador, the avian chancellor snapped. Your people have developed faster-than-light technology, shielding, and gravity manipulation far beyond what you have shared. You have hidden your true capabilities. This is a threat to galactic stability. Hannah placed her teacup down on the table. The gentle click was loud in the quiet room. She looked at each of them, her gaze suddenly sharp, no longer the pleasant grandmother. Hidden? She repeated. You have traded with us for decades. You have visited our colonies. You assessed our technology based on what we used to build homes and farms and hospitals. You saw what we built for peace, and you assumed that was all we could build. She leaned forward slightly. You never asked what else we were building. You never wondered why a species that emerged from a death world like Earth, a world of predators and natural disasters, might have a different relationship with preparedness. We shared our peaceful technology freely. You never asked for our secrets of war. Was that our error, or an error in your assumptions? The council members stared at her. The truth of her words sank in. Humanity had never lied. They had simply never offered the full catalog. The empires had judged a library by its children's section. This ship, this Munsu, the Lithian minister said, its light flickering. Where is it? How many more are there? Hannah smiled again, a thin smile. The Munsu is continuing its mission. As for how many, would you tell me, Chancellor, how many secret listening posts the Concord has on the Kthari border? Would you, Delegate, reveal the location of every Galruk Deep Space Reserve fleet? She stood up, gathering her simple shawl around her. The error was not ours. The error was in believing that because we are peaceful, we are harmless. Because we are open, we have no doors that are closed. The Munsu is a door. You finally knocked on it. She walked towards the exit, then paused. I suggest you direct your concerns to the Kthari hegemony. Ask them about the weapon test data our defensive exploration vessel intercepted. The test that breaks treaties you both signed. It seems we all have things we keep in the dark. With that, she left. The council sat in silence. The two pieces of information, the human warship and the Kthari superweapon, crashed together in their minds. The simple galactic order was gone. Humanity was not a minor piece on the board. They were the players who had quietly been building a new board the whole time. The deadly error was clear. They had noticed humanity's smile, but never stopped to consider the strength of the teeth behind it. The message from Earth Command was brief. It was a string of data, compressed and tight-beamed to a receiver only the Munsu possessed. It arrived hours after the Kthari ship had fled. Jean read it on the small screen in his cabin. The words were simple. Protocol veil ended. Stand by for new orders. Well done. That was all. No details. No congratulations. Just a change in status and an acknowledgement. He sat for a long time after reading it. The hum of the ship felt different now. It was no longer the sound of hiding. It was the sound of waiting, exposed. He walked out onto the bridge. Mira was at her station, her eyes fixed on the star map. Tay was running what he called a post-stress diagnostic on the shear core. Both looked up when he entered. It's official, Jean said, his voice flat. Veil is over. We are to stand by. Mira nodded slowly. A strange emptiness was on her face where tension used to be. What happens now? I don't know, Jean said. He looked at the main viewer. The gas giant was back. But it didn't feel like a hiding place anymore. It was just scenery. They'll decide. Politicians and admirals. We wait. The routine was gone. There was no more silent watch. Every sensor was active, but now they were watching for messages, for fleets, for the consequences of what they had done. The quiet felt heavy, not peaceful. After a shift, Tay spoke up. Captain, a request. I need to do a full physical check on the shear core. Not just diagnostics. The demonstration. It was more activity than it's had in 18 years. I need to look at the actual components. Jean understood. It was something to do. A real task. Do it. Take whatever you need. Tay left for the engineering bay deep in the ship's heart. Jean and Mira were left on the bridge. He's worried it's damaged, Mira said quietly. Or that it was only built for one good push, Jean replied. He finally voiced the fear he had carried since they powered up. We were a statement, Mira, not a fleet. What if we were only built to be seen once? They sat with that thought. The idea that their entire purpose, their whole adult lives, had been for a single act of theater. A bluff. Later, Jean found Tay in the engineering bay. The core was not a glowing ball of light. It was a series of dark, dense rings, suspended in a magnetic field. It was cold and silent. Tay had a panel open, his tools scattered. His face was grim. It's not damaged, Tay said without looking up. But it's tired. The materials, the tolerances. It was built with the best theory Earth had 50 years ago. We've maintained it perfectly, but it's like a masterpiece violin. You can only play the hardest song so many times. The stress today, I can see the fatigue in the molecular bindings. He finally looked at Jean. It will work again, maybe several times, but not forever, not for a war. They built us to be a secret. Secrets aren't meant for long, hard use. Jean placed a hand on the cold housing. This was their home, their weapon, their prison. And it was, as he suspected, a limited thing. A concept given form, but a fragile one. That night, the three of them ate together in the mess hall. The food was the same as always. But the conversation was not. Why us? Mira asked suddenly, pushing her food around her plate. I mean, why this mission? They could have just told the galaxy we had the technology. Shown them plans. Jean put his fork down. Because plans are just ideas, he said. A design can be argued against. Can be called a lie. A theory. He looked at her. Then at Tay. But a thing. A real, physical thing that appears out of nowhere and does something impossible. That cannot be argued. It just is. Seeing is believing. We are not a theory. We are a fact. He took a breath, letting the truth he had carried for so long finally come out. Our real-life story, our mission, it wasn't to fight a war. It was to be a ghost that makes other people afraid to start one. We are the story a parent tells a child to make them behave. Don't go into the dark woods, or the silent ship will get you. We were never soldiers. We were guardians of a scary story. Mira understood. And we just told the story out loud. Yes, Jean said. Now everyone has heard it. The story is real now. It has weight. It has consequences. Tay grunted. So we are a ghost that is now visible. What good is a visible ghost? It changes the world, Jean said. Just by being seen. Our error was thinking we had to be forever. Our maker's error was thinking the galaxy would stay the same. But we did our job. We made them notice. We made them afraid of their own error in judging us. He stood up, looking at his crew, his family. They were tired. They had spent their lives waiting for a moment that lasted minutes. And now they had to live past it. Get some rest, he said, his voice softer. The waiting isn't over. It's just a different kind now. In his cabin, Jean did not look at the picture of the park. He looked at the mission clock. It still counted up. Day 6,572. But the count had a different meaning. It was no longer a count of days hidden. It was a count of days since the ghost became real. He thought about the people of Earth going about their lives. They did not know about the Munsu. They did not know how close the dark had come, or how a single, lonely ship had pushed it back with a whisper and a demonstration. They would learn soon. They would be proud or scared or angry. They would have opinions. But here on the ship there was no pride. There was just exhaustion. The exhaustion of a job that was finally, painfully, done. The burden of the watch was lifting, and in its place was the uncertainty of what came after being a ghost. The change began with a single ship. It appeared at the edge of the Munsu's long-range sensors. Not a warship. A sleek, unarmed diplomatic courier from the Galactic Concord. It hung there just inside the star system and did nothing. It just waited. A few hours later, another signature appeared. This one was a Kthari vessel, also marked as a diplomatic ship. It took up a position far from the Concord ship, but also within sensor range. Two just waited. They were not approaching. They were announcing their presence. They were asking permission to enter. Captain Jean watched the two blips on the screen. He felt a strange, dry laugh rise in his throat. For 18 years, they had hidden from everyone. Now, two of the greatest empires in the galaxy were sitting politely at the edge of his little, desolate system, waiting to be invited in. New orders from command, Mira said, reading from her console. Her voice held a note of disbelief. We are to maintain position. We are to provide a neutral observation presence. A diplomatic summit is being convened. Here. In GSC 772. Tay shook his head from his engineering station. They are having a peace talk in our living room. That's the point, Jean said, understanding dawning. The living room belongs to the ghost. It keeps everyone on their best behavior. More ships began to arrive over the next day. 2 more Concord vessels. Another Kthari ship. Then, a small, familiar human cruiser, bearing the markings of Earth's diplomatic corps. It moved to a point between the two alien fleets, a neutral point. The stage was being set. No one hailed the Munsu. No one challenged it. It was the unspoken center of everything. Every ship's sensors were undoubtedly fixed on the dark, silent vessel hiding in the magnetic shadow of the gas giant. They were all watching the ghost. On the bridge of the Munsu, the crew watched back. "Are we just scenery?" Mira asked, a hint of frustration in her voice. After all the action, this passive role felt strange. "We are the fact," Jean corrected her gently. "They are here because of the fact. We don't need to do anything else. Our presence is the argument." He saw it clearly now. The Munsu was a piece on a game board that made the other pieces move carefully. It changed the rules just by sitting there. On the main human diplomatic ship, Ambassador Hannah prepared. She looked out a viewport, not at the gathered alien ships, but towards the distant gas giant. She knew the Munsu was there. She thought of the crew, of the years they had spent. They had given her the only card she had ever needed to play. A surprise. The talks began. They were not broadcast, but the Munsu's powerful sensors could pick up the public channels, the official statements. The Concord condemned the Kthari attack on the science vessel. They presented the data on the banned weapon test. They spoke of aggression and treaty violations. The Kthari, instead of denying it, spoke of security concerns and strategic ambiguity. They did not mention the Munsu directly, but their tone was different. It was not the tone of a predator. It was the tone of a power that had just discovered a larger predator in the same forest. Hannah's voice, when she spoke, was calm and clear on the channel. "Humanity has always sought peace, but peace is not the same as blindness. We saw the development of tools that could burn worlds. We developed tools to understand our universe. It seems one was needed to answer the other. Let us now discuss not whose tools are bigger, but how we ensure those tools are never used." The words were diplomatic, but everyone listening heard the real meaning. "You built a fire to burn down the neighborhood. We built a bucket of water you didn't know could exist. Now, shall we talk about not starting fires?" Jean listened, and for the first time in a long time he felt the weight lift slightly. This was the purpose. Not the fighting, the prevention. The ghost's job was to make the living behave. Days passed. The ships in the distance did not move. The talking continued. Then, a new order came to the Munsu. It was a personal message from Admiral Park, the woman who had sent Jean on this mission so long ago. Her face was older, her hair white, but her eyes were the same. "Captain Jean," she said, "your stand-down order is being prepared. A relief crew will be sent within the year to rotate you home. Your mission is complete. You have done more than we dared hope. You did not just guard a door. You built a new room in the House of History, and you made everyone sit down in it to talk. Come home. You have been ghosts long enough." The message ended. The bridge was silent. Home. It was a word that had meant nothing but a picture of a park for so long. Now it was a real place with real air, and real people who did not live inside a machine. Mira had tears in her eyes, but she was smiling. Tay let out a long, slow breath and leaned back in his chair, as if releasing a tension he had held for decades. Jean looked at the screen. The diplomatic ships still hung in the distance. The gas giant still swirled. But nothing was the same. "Tay," Jean said, his voice rough, "keep the sheer core dreaming, but let the rest of the ship wake up a little. Turn on the non-essential lights. Play some music in the mess hall." He turned to Mira. "Plot a holding orbit. A nice, easy one. We're not hiding anymore. Let's be comfortable while we wait." As Mira and Tay worked, a new feeling spread through the Munsu. It was not the tension of hiding. It was not the adrenaline of action. It was a deep, quiet calm. The watch was not over, but the fear was. They were no longer a secret. They were a symbol. And for now, that was enough. Jean walked to the main viewport. He looked at the distant specks of the diplomatic fleet. He looked at the stars. For the first time in 18 years, he did not feel alone in the dark. He felt seen. And because of that, the galaxy felt just a little bit safer. Their deadly error had been noticed, and in the noticing, a new, more careful future was being written. The silent ship had spoken, and the universe had listened.